In the world of WWE, having legends lay down to elevate the next generation is a crucial part of keeping the company fresh and moving forward. Those moments when established stars lose to rising talent often become turning points, launching them into superstardom. But this doesn't always happen. Some legends, whether to protect their image or out of personal pride, have refused to pass that torch. Let's take a look back at some of the most controversial moments where that opportunity was denied. 1. Triple H and CM Punk. The Summer of Punk is remembered as one of the most explosive periods of WWE's PG era. CM Punk became the company's focal point after his now iconic pipe bomb promo, giving fans hope for a fresh new direction where younger stars could rise to the top. Punk's momentum was so strong it transcended the ring, capturing mainstream media attention. Unfortunately, that momentum was quickly derailed by some puzzling booking decisions from WWE. One of the clearest examples came at Night of Champions 2011, when Punk faced Triple H. This was the perfect moment for WWE to solidify Punk's status as the company's next top star. Triple H was no longer a full-time competitor, having transitioned into an executive role and wrestling only on special occasions. All signs pointed to Punk needing a definitive win to keep the fire of his summer run alive. Instead, WWE booked Triple H to defeat Punk clean in the middle of the ring, a decision that left fans confused and frustrated. Rather than cementing Punk as the rebellious force challenging authority, Triple H's victory abruptly stalled the storyline. The emotional momentum Punk had built was nearly extinguished, and many fans began to doubt whether WWE was truly committed to elevating him to main event status. Punk himself has openly voiced his displeasure over this match. He believed that Triple H, with his influence behind the scenes, could have easily called for a different finish to protect Punk's push. A win for Punk wouldn't have tarnished Triple H's legacy, but it would have meant everything in elevating Punk to the next level. Keeping Triple H victorious at Night of Champions 2011 is widely viewed as one of the most regrettable choices in Punk's career. It didn't just cool off his momentum, it gave the impression that WWE was intentionally holding him back. Had Triple H been willing to take the loss, the Summer of Punk might have become a true turning point, ushering in a brand new era for WWE instead of being remembered as just a fleeting moment in time. 2. Triple H and Booker T. The storyline between Triple H and Booker T leading up to WrestleMania 19 is considered one of the most well-crafted programs of that era. WWE portrayed Booker T as a heroic figure representing the underdog, desperate to prove himself against an arrogant champion like Triple H. The promos leading up to the event highlighted their contrasting backgrounds, status, and pasts, creating a tense atmosphere that made fans believe Booker T was destined for his crowning moment. Triple H, playing the villain, excelled at being smug and condescending, repeatedly humiliating Booker T both verbally and physically, which only fueled the audience's anticipation for a dramatic upset at WrestleMania. But when the match took place, all expectations were crushed. Booker T fought valiantly, delivering passionate offensive flurries that had the crowd erupting every time he came close to victory. Yet, the ending turned out to be one of the most disappointing in WrestleMania history. Triple H hit the pedigree, slowly crawled over, and still managed to pin Booker T to retain the World Heavyweight Championship. What angered fans wasn't just the outcome but how WWE chose to book the finish. The unusually long delay between the pedigree and the pinfall felt like the company deliberately drained the crowd's excitement. Many believed this was the perfect moment for Booker T to win the title, not only as a reward for his journey but as a powerful message that anyone could overcome their circumstances. Years later, this remains one of the most debated booking decisions in WWE history. Fans and analysts often cite it as a prime example of Triple H burying rising talent to keep himself on top, even when the story seemed to demand a passing of the torch. Booker T would eventually become a world champion in WWE, but that moment at WrestleMania 19, where he should have had his defining victory, is forever remembered as a missed golden opportunity. 3. Hulk Hogan and Randy Orton. It's hard to believe, but Hulk Hogan's final WWE match took place at SummerSlam 2006, where he faced Randy Orton in one of the night's most anticipated bouts. This should have been the perfect moment for Orton, then at the peak of his legend killer persona, to score a statement victory and solidify his status as one of the company's most dangerous heels. What happened, however, left many fans stunned. After delivering his signature leg drop, Hogan pinned Orton for the 3 count as the crowd erupted. The result was highly controversial, as it felt completely unnecessary at that point in time. Orton was being built into a long-term cornerstone for WWE, and a win over a legend like Hogan would have given him even more credibility and momentum. Former referee Marty Ellis later revealed that there were heated discussions backstage about who should win. Orton reportedly pushed for a finish that kept his momentum alive and furthered his legend killer image, while Hogan made it clear he wasn't willing to lose. In the end, Vince McMahon and WWE sided with Hogan, a decision that left many disappointed. What made this outcome even more baffling was the fact that Hogan was no longer a full-time performer. Age and injuries had already slowed him down significantly. His victory didn't launch a new storyline, didn't set up a major program, and contributed nothing meaningful to WWE's future direction. Meanwhile, Orton's loss derailed a key opportunity to cement himself as a top star by defeating one of wrestling's most iconic figures. Hogan has long had a reputation for refusing to do the honors and elevate the next generation, and this match serves as a textbook example. Had Hogan agreed to lose, Orton would have gained a career-defining victory that strengthened his role as one of the most dangerous villains of the ruthless aggression era. Instead, Hogan stood tall once again, proving he had no intention of passing the torch, at least not on that night. 4. John Cena and The Nexus. The Nexus storyline in 2010 is remembered as one of WWE's most exciting and creative angles in years. Their shocking debut on Monday Night Raw, when the group ambushed John Cena and tore apart the entire ring, sent shockwaves through the wrestling world. It was a rare moment that truly felt chaotic and dangerous, creating the perfect opportunity for a group of young stars to become a legitimate threat to the entire company. Everything built up to the high-stakes clash at SummerSlam 2010, where Team Nexus faced Team WWE led by John Cena. The original plan was clear. Nexus would win, solidifying their dominance and positioning them as WWE's main villains for the foreseeable future. This outcome would have elevated the individual members and kept the storyline intense and compelling. But things took a very different turn. Cena, the biggest star in WWE at the time, reportedly influenced the finish and convinced management to have his team go over. In the end, Cena carried Team WWE, single-handedly defeating the last two Nexus members and ending their dominant run just months after their debut. This decision drastically cooled Nexus's momentum, transforming them from a company-wide threat into a mid-card faction that no longer felt dangerous. Even insiders like Chris Jericho and Edge publicly stated that this was a major mistake. They believed a Nexus victory would have fueled long-term storytelling and kept fans invested. Several Nexus members later admitted they felt robbed of their biggest chance to prove themselves on the main stage. Years later, John Cena openly admitted he was wrong to change the SummerSlam finish. He explained that, at the time, he just wanted to deliver a happy ending for the fans but failed to see the bigger picture. While his admission can't undo what happened, it shows Cena's willingness to reflect and learn from his choices. Still, this remains a prime example of how a single match can unintentionally halt the rise of an entire generation. 5. John Cena and Bray Wyatt. Heading into WrestleMania 30, Bray Wyatt was at the peak of his early career. The sinister cult leader persona he had crafted had quickly become a phenomenon, captivating fans with his eerie promos, haunting presence, and theatrical entrances. His feud with John Cena was brilliantly built, telling a psychological story where Wyatt tried to expose the monster Cena had been hiding inside. It was one of WWE's most compelling storylines at the time, and nearly everyone believed Wyatt needed a WrestleMania win to solidify himself as a true force in the company. But that moment never came. Their match ended with Cena pinning Wyatt, leaving much of the audience shocked. The decision was heavily criticized because Wyatt was clearly being positioned as a key player for WWE's future. A victory over the company's biggest star would have been the perfect springboard to elevate him to main event status, yet WWE chose to keep Cena's superhero image intact. At that point, John Cena was widely recognized as the face of WWE. While he didn't officially control creative decisions, his influence on match outcomes was well known. WrestleMania 30 could have been an opportunity for Cena to use his star power to elevate a rising talent. Had he taken the loss, Wyatt would have earned a defining moment that proved his character was more than just hype, that he was a legitimate threat to everyone on the roster. Instead, Cena's victory unintentionally weakened Bray Wyatt's mystique. Though their rivalry continued for several more months, Wyatt never fully regained the aura he had before WrestleMania. Many fans still view this match as the turning point where Wyatt lost the momentum and credibility he deserved. Keeping Cena unbeatable may have preserved his heroic image, but it also cost WWE a chance to create a new main event star who could have carried the company into the next generation. 6. Triple H and Rob Van Dam. In 2002, Rob Van Dam was at the absolute peak of his career. Fans everywhere loved his high-energy style, daring aerial moves, and unique charisma. By September of that year, the demand for WWE to give RVD a major championship had never been stronger. Crowds erupted every time he appeared, and even backstage, many believed it was the perfect moment to make him the new face of Monday Night Raw. That opportunity came at Unforgiven 2002, when RVD challenged Triple H for the World Heavyweight Championship. Fans were eager to see RVD walk out as champion, believing that crowning him would signal a new era and breathe fresh life into Raw. At the time, the rivalry between Triple H and Shawn Michaels was already heated enough without the title, so putting the belt on RVD seemed like the logical move. But things didn't go the way the audience expected. Triple H, who already held significant influence backstage, retained the title. Not only did he win the match, but the outcome stalled RVD's momentum. According to Van Dam himself, Triple H often told him he needed to improve his promo skills and even offered to help. While it sounded like friendly advice, RVD believed those comments contributed to management's hesitation to fully trust him as the top champion. The result at Unforgiven became one of the most debated moments of that era. Instead of a career-defining victory that could have elevated RVD to main event status, fans watched him fall short and slip back down the card. Many felt this was a wasted golden opportunity, a turning point that could have skyrocketed RVD's career but was shut down in favor of keeping Triple H on top. To this day, the match is remembered as a prime example of a legend using backstage power to protect his spot rather than helping elevate a red-hot, crowd-favorite talent who was ready for the spotlight. 7. Goldberg and Kevin Owens. Heading into WrestleMania 33, all signs pointed toward the most logical Universal Championship match being Kevin Owens defending the title against his former best friend turned bitter rival, Chris Jericho. Their storyline was the brightest highlight of Monday Night Raw at the time, a perfect mix of humor, drama, and heartfelt moments that had fans eagerly awaiting their showdown on the grandest stage of them all. Everything changed, however, when Owens was booked to face Goldberg at Fastlane 2017. Most fans assumed this match would simply strengthen Owens' character heading into WrestleMania, reinforcing his persona as a cunning yet dangerous champion. Instead, WWE chose a completely different direction. As soon as the bell rang, Jericho's music hit to distract Owens, and within seconds, Goldberg speared and jackhammered him to win the Universal title. The decision left fans disappointed. The Owens vs. Jericho match at WrestleMania, which should have been the emotional climax of their storyline, suddenly felt less significant without a world title on the line. Jericho himself later admitted that WWE made a major mistake putting the belt on Goldberg at that moment, as it drastically weakened the emotional weight of their rivalry's payoff. As for Goldberg, he showed little interest in helping Owens look strong in defeat. He could have agreed to a longer, more competitive match that allowed Owens to prove himself against a legend and leave with some dignity, even in a loss. Instead, Goldberg seemed focused solely on winning the world title again, regardless of how it affected Owens' momentum or the future of the storyline. Ironically, in a later interview with Digital Spy, Goldberg admitted to regretting his feud with Owens, but not because of how he won the Universal title. Rather, he said he wished he'd had more opportunities to crush Owens in big matches. This perfectly illustrates how a legend can prioritize himself over elevating the next generation, even at the expense of one of WWE's best storylines of that entire year. 8. John Cena and Rusev. In early 2015, Rusev was one of the most dominant and well-protected stars in WWE. He debuted on the main roster as the Russian hero, accompanied by Lana, and quickly became an unstoppable force. Rusev ran through some of WWE's biggest names, dominated nearly the entire mid-card scene, and held tight to the United States Championship. Everything pointed toward WWE shaping him into a true monster, the kind of opponent only a top-tier superstar could finally conquer. Then came WrestleMania 31, and everything changed. John Cena was chosen as Rusev's challenger on the grandest stage of them all. This match could have elevated Rusev, proving he was on the same level as one of WWE's biggest stars. Instead, WWE booked Cena to defeat Rusev decisively, win the US title, and end the undefeated streak that had been carefully built for months. What frustrated fans even more was how the match ended. Rusev didn't lose in a way that kept him looking strong. He was beaten clean in the middle of the ring. In that moment, much of the aura WWE had worked so hard to build around him as a destroyer was wiped away. After this loss, Rusev struggled to regain the momentum he once had, gradually slipping out of the main event picture and becoming a familiar mid-card act. Every attempt to push him back to the top failed to capture the same excitement as his original undefeated run. Many fans and analysts argued that WWE missed the perfect chance to turn Rusev into a true monster heel. Cena could have lost under controversial circumstances, or Rusev could have been allowed to keep the title longer to build to an even bigger payoff when he was finally defeated. Instead, WWE chose to give Cena a clean victory, a decision criticized as Cena protecting his own spot rather than using his status to elevate a younger talent. Even though Cena later helped revitalize the US title with his Open Challenge run, many fans still look back at this moment with bitterness. It remains a prime example of how a single mistimed loss can derail a character's momentum. WrestleMania 31 could have been the night Rusev was elevated to legendary status, but instead, it marked the turning point where he never fully recaptured his original heat. 9. Stone Cold Steve Austin and Brock Lesnar. In 2002, WWE planned a match between Stone Cold Steve Austin and Brock Lesnar on Monday Night Raw, with Austin booked to lose clean to Lesnar. This would have been the very first clash between the two megastars, but instead of becoming a historic moment, the plan triggered one of the most shocking events of that era. Upon learning the booking, Austin felt insulted and walked out of WWE, skipping the show entirely and leaving a major gap in the program. Austin later explained that losing to a rising star wasn't the issue, it was how WWE handled it. He believed that if the company truly wanted to establish Brock Lesnar as the next big thing, the victory should have been properly built up with a storyline, leading to a blockbuster match at a major pay-per-view like SummerSlam or WrestleMania. Instead, WWE wanted the bout to happen with no build-up on free TV, which Austin felt wasted its full potential. His decision sparked intense debate. Some fans and analysts accused him of being selfish, putting his ego above the company's needs. Others sided with Austin, arguing that he was actually protecting both his own star power and Lesnar's long-term credibility. A random, unadvertised win would not have had the lasting impact it deserved. Austin has since admitted that walking out was one of the choices he regrets most in his career. He has said he should have gone directly to Vince McMahon to negotiate a better solution rather than leaving abruptly. As for Brock Lesnar, he never expressed anger over the incident. In fact, he has remained on good terms with Austin outside the ring, with both men publicly showing mutual respect in interviews over the years. This entire situation stands as a prime example of how ego and poor storytelling decisions can shape WWE history, turning what could have been a legendary moment into a missed opportunity. 10. Hulk Hogan and Triple H. The decision to have Hulk Hogan win the championship at Backlash 2002 is still considered one of WWE's most puzzling choices. At the time, Hogan had just returned to WWE as a beloved icon, receiving thunderous cheers following the NWO reunion and his legendary match with The Rock at WrestleMania 18. However, fan nostalgia didn't necessarily need to translate into a title reign, especially when Hogan was already in the twilight of his career. Heading into Backlash, Triple H had just scored a major victory by defeating Chris Jericho at WWE's biggest event of the year to become undisputed champion. This moment symbolized his triumphant return from injury and re-established him as the company's top star. Yet just weeks later, WWE chose to have Hogan beat Triple H, abruptly halting the game's momentum in a move that baffled many fans. The controversy stemmed from the fact that Hogan, at this stage, could no longer carry a long title reign. His age and physical limitations made him an odd choice to hold the championship. Giving him the belt simply to capitalize on short-term crowd reactions ended up devaluing the undisputed title. WWE seemed to realize this quickly, as Hogan dropped the belt to The Undertaker only a month later, ending his reign almost as soon as it began. For Triple H, this loss didn't derail his career, but it certainly dampened the excitement following his emotional comeback at WrestleMania. A sustained title run for him at that time could have solidified the championship's credibility and opened the door for compelling storylines throughout the rest of the year. Hogan's victory at Backlash 2002 is often cited as a prime example of hotshot booking, where WWE favored nostalgia and instant gratification over long-term storytelling. It also serves as a reminder that a legend doesn't always need to win to remain beloved. Had Hogan taken the loss, the undisputed title likely would have retained its stability, and Triple H could have continued strengthening his role as a cornerstone of the ruthless aggression era. 11. The Undertaker and Albert. For years, The Undertaker has been regarded as WWE's trusted gatekeeper, a legend willing to elevate the next generation. Throughout his career, the dead man helped many names rise to prominence, from the Great Khali to Vladimir Kozlov. That's why his refusal to do the same for Albert in 2001 became a topic of discussion among fans. According to X-Pac, when WWE suggested that Albert score a win over him on television, Undertaker flatly said, "No." This was one of the rare instances where fans saw the Phenom decline to use his status to help another talent shine. During the summer of 2001, the two faced each other 3 times on TV, making it difficult to pinpoint which match was originally planned for Albert to win before the idea was scrapped. To be fair to Undertaker, his reasoning made sense. At the time, his American badass persona was being built up as a tough, no-nonsense brawler who was hard to beat. An unexpected loss to Albert, who hadn't yet been fully established as a top star, might have damaged the character's credibility. Additionally, WWE had no clear long-term plans for Albert, so a win over a legend like Undertaker could have ended up meaningless if not properly capitalized on. Still, some believe this was a missed opportunity for both Albert and WWE. A victory over The Undertaker could have been the turning point that elevated Albert's career, making him a legitimate threat in major storylines. Instead, Albert remained stuck in the mid-card scene, eventually cycling through different roles as A-Train and later Tensai. Undertaker's decision remains a point of debate even today. Some support him for protecting the integrity of his character, while others feel that if he had agreed, Albert might have reached a much higher level. Either way, this stands as one of the rare moments where the dead man was perceived as putting himself ahead of a younger talent's development. 12. Goldberg and The Fiend. Goldberg's victory over The Fiend at Super Showdown 2020 remains one of the most controversial booking decisions of WWE's modern era. At the time, The Fiend was built as an unstoppable supernatural force. Portrayed by Bray Wyatt, the character struck fear into opponents and had steamrolled through the roster with seemingly otherworldly power. His sudden loss to Goldberg, a near-retired legend, shocked fans and made it feel as though months of careful character building were erased in just a few minutes. The match itself was incredibly short. Goldberg hit a few spears and a jackhammer to end The Fiend's undefeated streak. That moment shattered the mystique surrounding the character, turning a once terrifying monster into someone who could be taken down by a star from the past. Fans and wrestling analysts alike considered it a crushing blow to Bray Wyatt's momentum, drastically hurting his aura only weeks before WrestleMania. Rumors circulated that Goldberg used his backstage influence to secure the win, allegedly arguing that The Fiend wasn't a suitable long-term champion for children to see. While this was never confirmed, it only fueled fan outrage, as many felt a legend prioritized his own status instead of helping elevate a new generation star. Even without the rumors, WWE's decision was widely viewed as a major misstep. Instead of allowing The Fiend to head into WrestleMania undefeated and defend the title in a high-profile match, the company had him lose quickly so Goldberg could challenge Roman Reigns. This reflected Vince McMahon's long-standing habit of reverting to established legends whenever he lost faith in newer talent, aiming for short-term buzz rather than long-term storytelling. The result was devastating for The Fiend's character. What was once one of WWE's most creative and terrifying personas was stripped of much of its menace. Goldberg's win added no lasting value to the company and only weakened one of its brightest creations, halting his momentum almost entirely. It stands as a prime example of how a legend's victory can unintentionally derail the rise of the next generation. These were the moments when WWE legends were seen as putting themselves above the next generation's growth. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow Wrestling Sphere for more exciting content.